Reading, reading, reading. A lot of people think that students just read. They are always jacking their textbooks. They are always their nose is in between the pages of a book, and you can call them bookworms, you can call them eficos, you can call them bookaholics, but reading should go beyond the textbook, especially now that we're being very creative in managing our time with the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. My name is Isabella Akinshaya, and thank you for stopping by on the Correct Student channel. Now, if you're new to this channel, you're in for a treat, because on Correct Students, it's all about learning. Our hashtag, our motto, our mantra is hashtag always learning. And we believe that as long as you have breath in you, you're alive, you're breathing, you're kicking, then you are a correct student, because you're learning every single day. I mean, even the 90-something-year-old, 100-and-something-year-old, the 2-year-old, you have to admit to yourself that they've learned so much, especially during COVID-19. Like, places that you didn't know existed, you found out about them, you've seen things in the news. So reading is something that a lot of us have taken up because we're indoors, we're trying to make the most of the time. But beyond the textbook, yes, beyond the textbook, we have a correct student reading list. So we already assume that you're reading your textbooks, and if you've watched past videos, I've talked about, the correct student guide to homeschooling, and I told parents, guardians, I said you need to read the textbooks. But now today's reading list goes beyond the textbook. So what should you be reading if you're a correct student? Number one, read the newspapers. Now, newspapers are not all doom and gloom. You can actually get great content from the newspapers. I know, because I've actually contributed as a columnist to several newspapers. I've written articles, I've written reviews, and I've written fun stuff. I've conducted interviews. I remember writing many years ago an interview with Wande Cole, and that was published by Next Newspaper. And I've written on Nollywood, I've written trailer reviews. But the newspapers are always a great place to start. Firstly, because of the news. We all need to know what's happening. We need to be informed. Now is not the time to be ignorant and bury your head in the sand like an ostrich. Now is the time to keep abreast on what's happening in the world, because we are so connected. One thing happening on one side of the world has an effect on the other side of the world. Newspapers are places where you can play games. I mean, there's Sudoku, there are crossword puzzles, you can get entertainment gist, business gist, you can get energy gist. Like, there's so many bits. So while maybe a parent might decide, I just want to focus on news, the child might decide, look, I want to focus on the kiddie friendly content. Mom might decide, I want to look at what's happening lifestyle wise. So newspapers, make sure you're reading the newspapers, and they don't always have to be physical copies. Now newspapers have online copies, so no excuse. Just because maybe you're on lockdown, the vendor didn't come, doesn't mean you can't read the newspapers. And you know what? This is a great way to build bonds within the family. When you read the newspapers, you come back and you discuss. Now, let's look at number 2 on our correct student reading list. And this is one of my personal favorites, magazines. And when you think about magazines, it's such a wide spectrum. Anybody that is close to me and knows me, whenever they are traveling and they ask me, what do you want? Even for my birthday, I'll be like, magazines. Maybe because I write for magazines, but also because I find that there's so many different topics. Like some months ago, I traveled and I got a magazine on calligraphy. I mean, that's so much fun. You can get sports magazines, movie magazines, you can get health magazines, you can get gardening magazines, you can get music. Like, there's so many magazines when I just think about it. Like, whatever sport, hobby, interest, thing that you like, there's probably a magazine for it. So if it's politics, there's a magazine. If it's business, there's a magazine. If it's cooking, there's a magazine. So get into magazines. And you know why I love magazines? Because they break up the text. There are pictures, there are illustrations. Some of them even come with things inside it, like you can get like beauty samples, you can get free guides. So go for magazines. Now, number 3, and I know I'm going to get a lot of like thumbs up from my younger correct student viewers and even the older ones, because if you're a comic lover, it stays with you from childhood all the way to adulthood. Read comic books. Yes, comic books can be edutaining. They can be educational and entertaining. We're talking about Wakanda, but you talk about the X-Men, you talk about Superman, all these things started from comics. And guess what? We in Nigeria, we on the African continent, we have so many folk stories, we have such rich literature, and it's so amazing seeing the great work that a lot of local publishers are now doing to bring our stories to a global audience. Again, you can download these comic strips, and it's a great way to get that edutainment content in and still be reading, you know, not every time just consuming content. Sometimes read a comic strip. Now, number 4, this is personal to me because when I was in secondary school, I didn't really read as much as people thought, but because I used to be called an Efiko, but novels. In the late 90s, early 2000s, I was a student at an all-girls school in Lagos, and I used to read romantic novels. I used to read Babysitter's Club, Sweet Valley High. When I was much younger, I read a lot of Enid Blyton. I never got round to Daniel Steele and Sidney Sheldon, but I know people, or John Grisham, I know people who swear by them and say they live by these titles. That wasn't really me, but there are so many novels out there. I still read novels. I have some. What I really love these days are novels that get translated to screen. So I might watch the movie first and then go and read the book, because the movie is just maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, but the book is maybe 300 and something pages. Or I might read the novel. I will always be the first person to promote African writing, Nigerian writing, because our work is really transcending. And growing up, we consumed a lot of foreign novels, but now African writers, Nigerian writers were stepping up to the plate. We're getting our work out there, being translated in so many languages, world tours. So let's support our own. Let's get novels on our reading list. And now, number 5, picture books. Yes, so you see, my reading list is quite robust. There's something for everyone. Like, you might have been thinking, okay, all these ones just sound like things for much older viewers, but picture books, I mean, there's just something about being a child and reliving childhood memories, and you know, your parent or your guardian, your auntie, your uncle, your grandma, grandpa would turn the pages of the book and you see the lovely animation, or sorry, the lovely illustrations, and you can follow on. It's a great way to build your vocabulary. It's a great way to practice your reading skills. And with all, I mean, there's nothing like better than a bedtime stories. A lot of our children, our wards, people in our care, what they really want is time. They don't always want your money, they want your attention. And what great way to do that is by adopting, you know, picture book reading. And you can also get some people who have read picture books online. You can listen to podcasts, but there's something about when it's done locally, you know, when parents or guardians read picture books, they put their own, you know, demonstrations. They become dramatic because they're trying to communicate, and it's always a great way to bond. So now, moving swiftly, number 6, and I know this will be very popular among my older viewers or middle-aged viewers: how-to books. How-to books are quite the rage. I mean, how to do this, how to make this, how not to do this, how not to. But yeah, how-to books are a great way to upskill. They're a great way to really deepen and broaden your knowledge on a particular topic and get practical advice on how to go from A to B to C to D. So how-to books are very popular. I mean, you can find how to sew, you can find how to code for the techies, you can find how to enjoy football. I'm sure you can find that. I'm sure some women are thinking, I really need to know how to enjoy this football, or how to decode football, or how to protect yourself during coronavirus like COVID-19, a how-to book on social distancing, on self-isolation, on quarantine. Like, all these things are so important. So how-to books are great. They're usually very straight to the point, very direct, told in very clear, simple grammar. This is not the time for you to bring out your dictionary to just follow along with the narrative. They're very simple. They want to get you active. So how-to books are a great one. And it works also with children and younger people, because you can find out how to also do the things and enjoy the things that they love. So there's not that much of a disconnection. I know some grandmas want to learn how to press mobile phone because that's what their grandkids are always on. So now let's move to number 7, bilingual books. Yes, you're still watching Correct Student, because you'll be thinking, she's saying we should read novels, she's saying we should read picture books. Like, Isabella, are you sure you're still on the same channel? Yes, we're on Correct Students. Bilingual books are great because when you're struggling to learn a new language and you can't just pick up a book in that language because you feel like you'll be lost, like your mastery is not as good. But then with a bilingual book, you can test yourself. You can say, okay, I understood this sentence, but this particular sentence, I didn't quite understand it. And then you can go and read the English or the local language that you are already proficient in. And bilingual books are a great way to also get our young ones, our children, our wards, learning our local languages. I mean, you have bilingual books in Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. And what I'm really impressed is that beyond these 3 languages, Nigeria is blessed with, I don't know whether it's 350, 400, 500, like depending on where you're looking online, Nigeria has a lot of languages in the hundreds. So it's good to see how some of the languages that we're not used to, maybe Ijaw, Ishekiri, Angas, Fulani, Igala, all these languages we're now seeing books there. But let's go a step further and make them bilingual so that the English or readers, in this case in Nigeria, can also follow along with the new language. So great way to get our children learning the language. And you know, this is also really a challenge for content creators out there, for writers out there, that this is a good time to start considering, you know, having your stories in different languages, having your books in different languages, so that we can promote it. And I know there's an educational opportunity there, because a lot of children come into Nigerian schools and they might not be speaking English. They might be speaking their local dialect at home. Maybe they're speaking Angas, Bachama, they're speaking Efik. So they need to also learn English as well as still remain proficient in their local language. I'm all for local languages. Now let's move swiftly to number 8. This will be popular among my adult viewers, and well, some of the young viewers are actually going to be interested in this, and this is leadership books. Leadership books, because you know, with the outbreak of coronavirus COVID-19, we've all had to take responsibility, I hope, for ourselves, but for our families, our wider communities. You can't sit down in Lagos, Nigeria and say, oh, what's happening in Wuhan, China, or what's happening in the United States or Italy or Finland or Australia. It's not going to affect you. We are really living in a global village, a global village. So leadership is so important, and leadership doesn't always mean having a title or you are elected. You can be a leader in your community, you can be a leader in your home, you can be a leader in your personal circle, and there's always a great way to improve your leadership skills, and that's through books, leadership books. How to be emotionally intelligent, how to communicate effectively as a leader, how to be a follower as well as a leader. There are so many things that are covered in leadership books, and I think it's a great way to already start. I mean, they don't teach us these things, leadership skills, but as we evolve, as education evolves, I think the curriculum needs to step up. But we at home, we as parents, as guardians, as educators, can already start introducing leadership books into the reading list. Now, moving on to number 9, a bit similar to number 8, but not exactly. And these are motivational books. I know these are very popular with Nigerians. I'm a Nigerian, so I can speak from experience. Like, we love our motivational speeches, and I hope, love to read the speeches and love to read books by our motivational speakers. Motivational books are great because, trust me, if everything is negative out there, you do need some positivity, you need some hype, you need some light after the tunnel. And it's so important to have an open mind when you're reading these motivational books. Some of them, all they just do is ginger you, and that's great. A motivational book might not be a how-to book. It might just be to inspire you. It might just be, moving the needle a little closer. It might just be saying, you know what, look at the glass as half full instead as half empty. It's not telling you how to pour more water into the glass or how to turn lemon into lemonade, but it's also giving you a different perspective. So I don't knock anybody who reads motivational books because they have a place, and just make sure that as you're getting motivated, you put in the work. It's not just hype and I'm gingered and that's it. Motivate yourself through books, but at the same time put in the work. And finally, number 10, and I had to put this here because, again, the circumstances we're in, COVID-19, wow. There's so many people that have gone spiritual during this period. People that didn't have any God have called on the gods that they found. Religious books or inspirational books. Religious books. So in Nigeria, where I live, three main religions are Christianity, Islam, and African traditional religion or traditional religion. But there are many religions out there, so it's so important that during these really trying and uncertain times, we still find hope. We still draw strength from our religious books. We can draw strength from the scriptures. I'm a Christian, so this is a time where I meditate, I confess scriptures to just help me get through each day, because we really don't know what's going to happen. But there's just that feeling when you feel like, someone out there, a higher being is out there, taking care of me and watching over me. And I know some of you that are watching this video might be atheists or you're agnostic, but you know what? I encourage you to read a religious book, because I find that a lot of time we have a lot of divisions, a lot of fights on religious lines, and that's because we're not informed. But if you have an understanding of the different religions there, then you're more likely to be tolerant. You're more likely to walk in love, in respect, in mutual, in a mutually beneficial way to the whole society at large. So it's not really about what religion you belong to, but let's all have respect for each other. And religious books, trust me, beyond the scriptures, beyond the sayings, they're full of a lot of stories that we can draw lessons from. Like as I said, I'm a Christian, so we read parables and we can draw lessons that are applicable to life, not just in biblical times. So that's the reading list compiled for you here on Correct Student. Please let me know which of the numbers you like. Is it number 1, number 5, number 6, number 10? Are you reading all the books? Did I miss something out? Please let me know. I didn't go too deep into whether it's ebook or audio book or physical book, because books come in different formats now. You can listen to a book, you can read a book, you can hold a book, you can press on a book, you can click on a link of a book to take you somewhere else. So yeah, let me know in the comment section. Leave a comment, let me know what you're reading, and yeah, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. Subscribe, tap on the bell, follow us across our social media handles. I'm Isabella Akinshe. Thank you so much for stopping by. I can't wait to come your way with yet another vlog. Bye bye.